Well, 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 well. Ooh, that Venus and Leo got a nigga. Ooh, sometimes you gotta look at yourself and take a moment and be like, yes, 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 yes. Especially when you know you've navigated through some ish. Um, what I will share is this. On your healing journey, I would say on my journey, my experiences, the art of not giving a fuck, some may call it, or represent the art of detachment, has to also be in your repertoire, has to also be in your your as I say that, a huge, is that a falcon or confirms everything? Is that a falcon or a hawk? Sounds like a hawk. But your art of not giving a fuck has to be top tier. There's so many ways that I'm going to articulate this. Do I want to do it under the trees? I'm probably gonna do it near the tree. Make sure my music's not playing. Okay. But this is something gradually that I've been accepting because of my natal chart, my progressing energy, having a Chiron in Cancer is unbelievably transformative. I know myself more and more deeper to be very sensitive, but also have dealt with personal abandonment wounds very young from both parents, whether that's physically, emotionally, which has gradually put me in positions, very young to be very hyper independent. But I still notice now as I gradually become more stable and balanced within myself, where again, you can lose yourself in this process along the journey, but be reminded again, one of the biggest things I've learned is to gain a healthier approach to independence. And sometimes it's so challenging because you don't even know what the fuck that looks like, feels like, and so forth. But something within you, when you start to go towards it, it feels, not only just feels safe, but it's a balance where now you realize like how much it aligns with everything that you're going towards and moving towards without shame and guilt, without judgment, and so forth. So for me, that's been one of the biggest things that um, I knew for a fact that I got insight on when I start doing more of um, my YouTubes and my books. That right there would be more healthier independence, even though it may be a little slower, it may be a little, different. Your journey will be a little different from other people. It's still intentional. It's still purposeful. It's very windy today. But other than that, the same thing with my arts too. Um, I was creating earlier, and stuff was just coming up. Where I'm learning a lot more now how to respond to a lot of these things. Where usually I used to give a fuck, or that's just naturally through balancing my emotions, where I would care too much. And that would be to my own detriment. I couldn't blame anybody. And it wasn't that I needed to blame myself, it was more accountability that I needed to accept. More of not beating myself up over over things where, that I pretty much had to teach myself, because that was really going to give me the life that I knew I deserved. I gained an identity around people pleasing. And I noticed that even with society has built that on that, and a lot of these transits are going to reveal a lot of those very things. And it's also going to reveal a lot of the insecurities around things that people cannot hide anymore as you move towards more of a healthy independence. Because the codependency for me definitely came in when, again, like I said, it's something I'm finishing up now. The healthy independence is something now I realize that has become something that I have to go towards. I can no longer ignore. I just simply cannot ignore it. And it's just the full accountability I'm taking, receiving, acknowledging on my own path. Get your journal, keep going. So one of the biggest things, I'll let y'all in on my experience, because we're at the tail end of Jupiter in Cancer, which I've been battling, not just struggling, but challenging, significant challenges around, justifying, my emotions need to be justified, accepted, and that's what is so important that we need to be taught when we're young. Because in my personal experience with a few people, I start to realize, I start to recognize their codependency to the fact of whether they feel that their emotions are justifiable around a situation. Or I also start to recognize the abandonment wound that, again, I've been very much aware of personally, and then seeing it mirror back, especially one of the things on the journey and experience is that once you have navigated through something personally, I always say this, it's like you will see it, your perspective changes, you will see it play out through people. You will see the unevolved version of you play out through people. You will see versions of, you will just see the energy play out to where it will remind you that simply you have no control. and that in that it's the lesson in also realizing how people will give off that they have control, but in actuality, they don't. And so this is where it becomes very scary for them, because they are so used to a certain narrative being a certain way, and once their grip start loosening around the situation, then the collapse in their ego or in the identity that they built around the situation begins to simply collapse, everything around it. So that can be very helpful for whomever that's for. That can be very helpful. I know it was very helpful for me. But again, it's just something we're not taught very young, how the importance is, and that our emotions do matter around whatever the situation. And that's kind of been one of my biggest things, because of you grow up and around grow up in situations or around people who only, especially like authority figures and so forth, and their way being their way and so forth. I've noticed this being a challenge with even parentifying or and so forth. So I noticed so I'm gonna really bring light to something for those of you that, whether it's a marriage, whatever significant relationship that you're in, whether you being the one that's more on the awareness side. Did I come all the way over here and forget that thing? I believe I did. Or did I put it back in there? Oh, there you go. It can be very frustrating, especially it can be, but it doesn't have to be. But I'm just giving y'all different perspectives to where while a lot of your parents or guardians or marriages or even current relationships probably are just dissolving or just fading. The transits have a lot to do with that. It's just, again, it goes back to people willing to evolve. You cannot make them. You cannot make them. And you don't have to. You cannot make them, and you don't have to. One of the biggest things that I wanted to ignore, but I realized it has to be very personal in your journey to actually be willing to still evolve. And that's the frustrating part about it, is that you still have to be willing to evolve, even if no one else can see past their current circumstances. Because you're going to still someday be a reminder. And it's not so much beating a person up over what they can and cannot do, because sometimes, we're very good at that in human nature, or try to be, remind people so much of why we hate them so much, or why we feel like they're not capable of also going through human experiences just like we are. We are here to really go through the same shit. If you are there, to see it that way. You don't have to. But that being said, it's just the internal growth where you realize and start accepting more and more that, and they'll feel it too. They'll feel it. Like I tell people all the time, sometimes you don't even have to say nothing. It's a feeling that happens within you, and it's something that they actually feel, especially if you have probably have intercourse or sex or something. People sometimes they'll never say it, but they can feel that energetic cord dissolving. This is something I gradually start to recognize, even in connection, simply because, for me, one thing I do that I've learned, I'll tell you, going back to the emotional aspect, healing the emotional body has been big for me because of the Jupiter and Cancer transit. Oh my gosh, it's expanded so much around abandonment issues for me. My own personal abandonment issues that carried for generations. Because, I came across a video today. Oh my gosh. This sister was like, imagine having to take out everybody in the family, on some generational curse shit. And a lot of people don't realize, that shit's so deep is because I've told y'all about, my nephew and similar things that, again, the energy plays out to where you will see it play out through multiple people in your lineage. And one of the greatest things I will say that you can experience from a connection, whether it's, you healing from something karmic or experiences a karmic connection, bro, the best, like, encouraging thing that I realized is that be grateful that you even have a person that's, even though they're not where you are consciously, mentally, emotionally, be grateful that they are on that fucking journey to actually be willing to try to heal. Because if you know how deep that shit is for you, they're different. And especially if they're in a lineage where sometimes, like, you got to realize they're also trying to fight against or go up against whatever spiritual warfare vices and shit in their lineage. And y'all don't realize, like, everybody don't survive this shit. Everybody don't make it out. Just like that girl said, every fucking ancestor wasn't elevated. Some of them motherfuckers had to be taken out simply because they didn't want to fucking do better. That's no different than people in the fucking family. Once you overcome something generationally, do you not realize, like, that collapses everything that people have fucking built in the name of whatever entity, attachment, lust. When I say entity, I mean like lust, greed, whatever shit like that really be having people so fucked up. And it's so deep too, because it's so oddly and weird how I've had, and I know I'm not the only one who had like relatives weird. They've had weird attractions. I picked up on the energy like they have this weird attraction to me. And I now deeply know that a lot of that shit be lust. A lot of that be spiritual stuff. A lot of that stuff be spiritual vices. A lot of that stuff, and I'm not justifying behavior. It's like this shit goes so deep that most people don't realize. And then think about abandonment wounds. When people don't heal certain parts of their shit, they'll do shit purposely to keep you close to them. What makes you think relatives won't do that shit? What makes you think people in the family? Y'all just think it's mothers and, man, nah. I was getting real clarity to start to realize, like, even hidden animosity with certain people, whether in the family dynamic, I started to realize, like, damn, they had to be removed or taken out because they thought that they were bigger than the program. They wasn't really trying to overcome stuff. And when I say taken out, I mean by at the hands of their own fucking karma. Them not taking heed to the message. Them not seeing the bigger picture. Them not investing into the one who actually supports the healing aspect, because they're choosing to elevate. Some of these people knowingly want to stay in the fucking generational curse because of so much shit. They don't want to do better. And that's why sometimes I've learned also too, through emotional empathy, it's also through emotional abandonment also too, is that I'm learning that through the people pleasing tendency is no longer stop being the fucking middleman to shit. Like I said, this ain't on nobody. This is through self-realization. I realized, especially in the last, I don't know how long Jupiter, but before Jupiter went to, before Jupiter went into Cancer, was it in Gemini? Whatever sign it was in, I was definitely on a roll with, like, realizing that I still had Chiron in Cancer, so I still was navigating through trying to take on so much. So I had to really learn not to give a fuck, because every time that I tried to intervene or do too much, it would affect my emotional well-being to an extent to where, like, sometimes I don't even know how to, like, I do know how I got here, but at the same time, like, I'm just so grateful. Because the bigger picture is my kids are not going through this shit. I wouldn't even want them to. They don't have to. Because I'm going to face the shit. That's how deep this shit is. People out here fucking playing. Bitch, my kids not finna go through none of this shit. I'm going to face this shit while I can. Especially the emotional part. Because what good is the fucking money and all that shit if your ass ain't even, you don't even give a fuck about your well-being or the people around you. That's why y'all hear me talk about how y'all can sit here and celebrate the niggas who, or people who fucking don't give a fuck in a way to where the emotional empathy around the well-being of people. Because not giving a fuck is it's a different way of like protecting your peace, not giving a fuck and knowing, choosing your battle. But I'm in another way, the unhealthy part about it is like seeing people like prey on people, make money and shit, off the woundings, off the backs of people. That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother beast right there. Like I said, I can care, but I don't have to care. That's why I say I don't give a fuck to an extent to where I'm not gonna lose myself again in some bullshit with people, with nobody else. Especially if I realize and you learn that even through parenthood. You learn that even through lessons with that. It's like, well, your kids or this and this, you know what? You told them one time, or you told them this. Shit, even some of them got more fucking common sense than a lot of these adults that have been so in their fucking cycle or in these patterns for so long, which you can't even tell them shit. So again, you have to learn the art of not giving a fuck with a lot of stuff, because people are still going to assume that they're bigger than the program. So that's where the detachment really has to come through a lot of these things, is that I've had to learn gradually. That's where, again, the emotional boundary had to come in. I was taking on too much. I had to learn, learn how not to give a fuck no more. I was writing to myself, no more people pleasing, or putting people's feelings over my own. That's a real thing. That's so deep, because the Chiron in Cancer, again, I represent, it's like the mother wound, the mother, the home, what else? Ancestral, all those other things. So I know what I'm recovering personally. I know what I'm recovering, especially as the patriarchal. And I can see other people suffering at the hands of this, because I told you, the society, this shit has been built from that. It's been built on preying on the wounds of that. There's nothing, personally, I feel that supports that, especially as a man. So the identity that I built around it, like seeing the Chiron leave Aries, self-abandoning myself, that's a part of, putting others' feelings over myself. I realized that when my daughter coming, her mom, so many different things where a lot of people don't realize that they're going through this cycle. They don't know that. This is why I said the art of not giving a fuck. I'd rather be at peace, balance, and structure, knowing the surrenderance of, knowing what I can do at this moment, what I'm not. It's because I just realized, I have to tell myself, as much as it may feel like other people are hurt by it, I refuse to show up. That's how much you cannot give a fuck in certain. I refuse. That's a boundary. No, I don't want to show up. I don't care to right now. I have to show up for myself. So the art of not giving a fuck is not giving a fuck about how people are going to feel toward. That's their own emotions. You're actually mirroring back what it is to teach them emotional boundaries, physical boundaries. And then a lot of people don't know, if they definitely don't have a sense of identity, a sense of self, and so forth, and it's rooted in self-abandonment. For one, they'll play the victim card. And you see this a lot. The society around identity that they created around honoring the victim, in a sense of the victim mentality, not upholding the fact of overcoming that shit. and then staying consistent and persistent with it. This is not a society or communities and so forth that has been focused on upholding the priority around balancing emotional boundaries, not just physical boundaries, because people still will try to overstep that. A lot of things is an inward thing that I realized with this Jupiter and Cancer transit that I have personally in my chart. It was expanding that all around. The self-abandonment, especially as a darker man, especially as men, knowing that, you know, how sensitive we truly are, like being an internal nurturer. Man, I literally surrender to everything. I like the not giving a fuck is to a place of like, whatever happens, it's an acceptance. Like, I didn't have control over it anyway. It's truly how I respond to it, from an emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical aspect. The spiritual aspect is more so of how I, in my daily routine, the ritual aspect of that. You know what I'm saying? Recovering. Like I'm prioritizing the recovery right now of so many different things. When I see women choosing themselves, why the fuck men shouldn't do it? We should do it even more. Because that'll change the whole trajectory around this whole bullshit narrative of self-abandonment. I'm not finna abandon myself to go out there and burn myself out to you know what I'm saying? It's no one's fault that I didn't learn these things very young. Like, I'm not blaming anyone. It's a difference between actually saying, oh, my mama did. No, I realized that they had their tools, and some of them didn't even fucking know. They were still in the loop when I first met them. Like, when they first had me, they were still in a loop. So I had to realize, and being a generational curse breaker and a cycle breaker, who has to not be in a loop? Someone has to see it and stay fully committed to breaking a generational loop so that the cycle can continue, a healthy cycle towards emotional abundance and sovereignty, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. The fuck? I cannot give a fuck about who and what somebody gonna say about me. That's just like people shooting arrows and shit, and I'm just watching them bitches land and none of them hit me. So that's the art of not caring. You can have emotional empathy, but I'm not gonna lose myself in the idea of, for one, people pleasing. And one of the biggest things is that when you're young and you had your voice silenced, or people who can relate to that, and especially in a fucking country, the distorted mother and father aspect, because I tell y'all, when the fucking men who are in position, who are actually orchestrating the demise of other people to devalue them, to take out certain people who are authentic, who are in integrity, who are whistleblowers or exposing their operations and so forth, and their, you know, because it threatens their ego, or it collapses their foundation, or expose their again, whatever their false narrative around empowerment. Now you want to harm them. That's another thing where, again, the Chiron and Aries has revealed how people assert themselves in so much of wanting to take up space, but in a very assertive, unhealthy, assertive way, in a very violent way. And a lot of that screams, or, you know, relates to the fact of people not knowing how to assert themselves healthily. And they profited off of that shit. Profited off of the fucking pain, the woundedness, built identities around this shit. That's not what the fuck I'm here to do, and I could care less whether someone accepts it or not. In my world, I've already accepted it. I've had to learn a whole different approach towards nurturing myself, showing up for myself, loving on myself. And guess what? In that process, I didn't lose everything. I lost everything around that identity of people pleasing, letting go of the idea that my emotions need to be justified in a situation. Like, fuck that shit. Like, I realized my emotions are valid around any situation, whether that be it my inner child, the situations with, whatever lived experience, whether from childhood, teenage, adulthood, and so forth. My feelings are valid around that shit. They're justifiable. That's what the emotional intelligence I've learned is to listening to myself, how the fuck I feel, so I don't have to repress it and suppress it more and more. Finding healthy outlets through the abusiveness, looping through self-abuse, becoming the abuser, now having to evolve through all of that shit. And I started to learn more and more that not so much my reactions, but even through my response to shit, I knew that my feelings were fucking justifiable towards situations. I had to go through experiences and fighting for my motherfucking sovereignty, or my inner child, fighting for my inner child to know that it's valid. What you went through is important. Now you realize to protect that, and to also realize in your emotional safety and supportiveness and the comfortability of the home within you and the home without. Now you realize in that self-awareness, in that self-realization, I can build from that. Everybody not willing to lose everything, let go of everything around the fact of knowing that, for one, your emotions are very valid. Around knowing that that person who didn't want to take up the responsibility to fulfill your emotional needs as a child, that's very valid. I know how much anger I've carried to where, okay, if I'm going to assert myself in a healthy way, why the fuck would I want to continue? I'm not going to continue a loop of dysfunctionality, a loop of dealing with people who I know. For one, when these transits start to happen, especially like Jupiter and Leo, so much is going to be expressed around things that people in their heart space. So many different things. Like, I've been getting so much confirmation on how people can no longer hold within them the hatred, things in their heart, the emotional parts of them. So many different parts of them that, again, it can no longer be hidden. And so this is the beauty of doing the inner work, is like realizing, like, I don't have to pretend. I don't have to pretend for nobody. Neither do you. You don't have to pretend. You also don't have to ignore your own truth. Because I realize in this shit, I'm just going to simply move away from that which isn't in alignment with me, which doesn't support my emotional safety, my security. And so for a lot of you too, I will say this, is that a theme around that is, as you as men and women, but especially men, is that as you come back home to yourself, that peace, you know how they be saying, oh, men just want peace? It's more than just peace. It's more that the fact of, like, you had to deal with the world. Already had to deal with shit. And there's nothing more stressful than a woman who hasn't been on that journey of learning herself to realize, like, the significance in being her own peace first. And still knowing that she can be chaotic, because everyone is natural. We all have a shadow. but it's the awareness around her knowing that where you kind of bounce off each other, you reciprocate that. Again, a lot of people are looking for a resting place, especially if you're coming off a certain journey, especially if you know that how deep the ancestral healing can be, especially if you're being the one being called forth to do that shit. That shit ain't for the faint of heart, y'all. I had a homeboy the other day talking about, man, you really becoming more and more in tune, and you becoming da 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 da. He's like, man, I want to be like that. I said, boy, be careful what you ask for. Be careful what your ass asks for. Life will take your ass through something to where this shit ain't about money, bro. It's bigger than that. All that shit is connected to your finances, your emotional well-being, your physical well-being. I say this all the time because I reflect on my journey personally simply because of knowing how much I've navigated through to where I know I've been preparing myself for just in my chart, like something that's more emotionally safe and secure, in building partnerships towards that, business and so forth. Because for me, in my world, that's important. That's vital for me. And it also supports and recognizing, again, what other young men and men will probably experience. Something that I know for a fact for generations to come. They're going to need a soft place to land. They're going to want or be seeking out not just mentorship, but a more healthier way towards asserting themselves. And when you look at the old world narrative, it's nothing against that. It's also, again, you have to implement the inner child, the inner child, and also the emotional part of it. Because, yeah, you can give them sports. You can give them all these different things. But not every child is the same. Y'all keep putting, bro, that's why so much ritualistic shit, so much shit that keeps kids in the dark, in the shadows. And there's so much shit even on the bigger scale when it comes to that shit. If you know, you know. And that's why the approach, that's why the light is here to reveal that shit. Those who have met themselves in the dark, to reveal the hidden parts of that shit. The ritualistic parts of that shit. That actually have them men think that they're progressing, but they're a part of some shit that's way more darker than they know. Or keeps them in the dark. Because if you're not, it's like you obtaining all those different things materialistically and so forth. But where's the other layers to you? That's my thing. Where's the other layers to you? How do you relate to other men and young boys without it just being focused on the sport in itself? There are different versions of you, bro. There are different parts of you. One thing I realized learning through all of this, art is just more than just art. Writing, music. There's a lot of things I'm getting into. But it's also the fact of, how are you being a bridge? You just a bridge for sports? That's all you can talk about? Okay, so if you remove all that shit, and then all this stuff start to come out about it, all these different things start to come out about it, then you're going to realize like how much just of your identity that you built around this shit that you don't even realize a lot of that shit is rooted in woundedness. A lot more stuff is going to come out about a lot of these sports and a lot of these things and so forth. And y'all going to start to realize how lost a lot of people truly are. They don't have an identity outside of that shit. That keeps you in the dark. That doesn't keep your imagination alive. That keeps you in the dark. There's a lot more hidden shit that's going to come up around a lot of these things. So again, for myself personally, for myself personally, these strangers have been revealing a lot. Y'all don't mind. I'm just something that I hit my hand on or something. Trying to, but these things has just bring a more deeper awareness to also not just what's been hidden, but also ancestry, things that have been keeping people in the dark and not truly allowing their soul's expression to be fully at the forefront. The game is over. I've been hearing that a while. The game is over. And those who know. Like the game is over. The jig is up. And with that, I just realized I got a lot of the significance. It's so many people with their eye open right now. Like to see so much that's happening. Like they recognize it easily. Social media is like not even just social, man. A lot of this stuff is such an easy way to be deceived, but also just as much of a way to actually be brought right back out of the darkness into the light. You know what I'm saying? Being able to really like counter things and become more aware. It's wow to see so much being cleansed. I will say that. That's why I realize it's so vital for a lot of us to, in the healing state, to realize so much of what has been hidden, what has been kept a secret, realizing you're the secret. Because in your due diligence, it's not so much of the reward. The reward is a part of it, but the reward ain't just financial. That's what so much has kept so many people from recognizing the shadows or things that are hidden. The reward, the bigger picture, is so much of, again, the clarity you didn't realize you was going to receive through that healing process. The clarity on that situation, the awareness now that you have, how lighter you feel. The biggest thing for me is the awareness, and then now the intention, because sometimes you didn't realize that you had intention with something, but if you could have, or sometimes unintentionally been a part of something, not knowing the backstory, and now realizing like, whoa, I had to go through this. This is for my protection. What else? And again, now you can move now things at your own pace. Life will have your ass slowing down. PTSD, my new channel, post-traumatic growth, has allowed me to also realize like seeing the appreciation of the simplest things. Slowing down. This journey will have your ass slowing down. That's also the fact of not giving a fuck about so much things. And that's just saying like what you realizing, what control do you have? When you have thoughts, when you have emotions, when you have so many different things that come up, when you have so many different things that you're trying to navigate through, yeah. And the truth for you, not everyone else, but the truth for you gets clearer and clearer. It gets clearer and clearer. And that's the beauty of like you have to move your own way, but it has to be intentional and authentic and in integrity. What good is a life if you're not truly living it in your own authentic way? Like what? That shit be wild. I realize now in my momentum, in my motion, in my movement, in what I'm doing, my movement, like it's personally for myself. I'm like, whoa. I don't give a fuck so much of like it being really accepted by men first anyway. And I say that simply because I know what I'm recognizing when it comes to the patriarchal. I had someone else the other day was like, they said they was like, almost felt the sense of jealousy or envy simply because how people, they don't know, sometimes they unconsciously compare their journey. But it's like I cannot help but be a mirror in my conversations. And I notice how the conversation shifts when I'm like authentic about something, which really doesn't bother me. I realize like it's the beauty of exposing the energy around the friendship or just the exchange. I ain't even gonna put a title on it. But I just felt the underlying energy of like them wanting so much of my life to where I was like, you sure? But I be reminding people we all can obtain. It's not something you have like I got something that you don't have. Now some people now some people know in the spiritual community now ranking, yes, that's different. That's why you shouldn't want what someone else has, because you don't know when it comes to someone's ranking or what it is that they have connected to them. You don't know if you can survive that shit. That's why I always be so appreciative of my journey, because I had someone inadvertently confess something, because I had mentioned like saying that damn, this shit was supposed to destroy me. Like literally like this experience, I was like with them or with, just certain things that would involve them. I'm like, damn, this shit was supposed to destroy me. I know y'all, my finger looks so weird, but I keep looking at it. I had hyperextended this and I never got it fixed. So it just sits in this position, but it looks like it's so curled. Like curled even more. It just doesn't bend the same. The muscles like, yeah. But I just knew that like their journey, their purpose is, because I noticed in their chart, we have similar charts. But you have to know through human design, people are still capable of human fucking emotions, or capable of, and see, that's the thing between the balance between spiritual, that you have to remember, between this spiritual shit and this physical shit. You have to realize like people are still subjected to, everyone still subjected to this human experience. No matter how much they want to place themselves on a high horse in this spiritual community shit, and like they got so much of this and so much of that, like all that shit is being cleansed out. All of, for one, is being exposed because of the perversion in the shit, the over exaggeration. And it's so funny because Jupiter is in Cancer right now, and it's finna go out within 2 cycles. Man, this shit is really amping up shit. Like, it's really amping up the fact of everything. I told you, Jupiter rules the home. So a lot of this shit, these transits, oh my God, it's really fucking bringing some shit up and out of people, bro. Fuck. And that's why my Chiron in Cancer shows me like I have to not give a fuck, because I know how much I used to be so emotionally invested in other people, to where I realized like I gradually see how like I told you, conversation shifts, certain things change, because I'm sitting here like, I don't even give a fuck about it no more. At the same moment, it's like, it's just the awareness around like, why should I? I can care about what someone's gonna go through, but at the same time, when I realize again the loop, when you start to see how people still looping through shit and they don't want to change, that's that art of not giving a fuck. Like, you gotta realize, like, you know what, respectfully, I care about you. And emotional empathy too is an internal spot. That doesn't mean you have to physically put yourself there. Because once you see the emotional and spiritual and mental part, you place yourself there. But when you physically try to do it, that's why I'm getting that revelation. Like, that's a whole nother, thing to where we know how that is to people please. I feel like that's like one of the stages that most people don't know how to actually convert themselves from, or restrain themselves from, or discipline themselves from. I had to learn that. Like, it's the engaging part. And you gotta realize it's on so many different levels. The mental, spiritual, physical, emotional. Think about, like, again, I had to gradually learn the importance of emotional intelligence. So again, how I would connect with someone, like I told you, the person, and like how much they say they want to live a certain life and so forth. But I can still, because the Chiron and Cancer for me, or no, what is it? The progress. If you got water placements a lot, you can intuitively pick up on shit nonverbal, shit people really not saying, and just the energy aspect, especially if you have evolved, especially if you have picked up on it, because you're sensitive to it. But when you're sensitive to it, you also have to be aware not to inadvertently trying to soak this shit up to where now you become this guru, or become this whatever it is, in a way to where it's like basically you overextending yourself. See, that's the thing with people pleasing. So I've learned through a lot of interactions where a lot of me walking away and not giving a fuck is just respectfully choosing myself and not to engage. And for one, I know by being sensitive than most people and picking up on stuff and recognizing this even more since a child, and to my inner child healing, it's too expensive to fucking take on shit, because I already know that it'll be a liability, because I'll be trying to talk to your ass for 2-3 hours, trying to tell you about your life, just knowing that at the end of the fucking day, or whatever it is, you'll go right back to that person, you'll go right back to what's familiar, you're still gonna live your life gonna still go on. And that's the thing about the inner work shit. It's like, you got people who really gonna do it, and that's the thing that's always gonna be telling. It's always gonna reveal itself. And that's why I always remind people, where you see people don't evolve, you have to evolve. Whether that's on a mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever it is. That's all this is. So when you think about religion, people are evolving collectively, individually. When you think about the spiritual aspect, same thing. But that's also exposing the different parts of what people have been into, and then it's exposing what's been hitting, because the veil is lifted. It's exposing what's been hitting to bring awareness, and it's so, sometimes you can't even put it into words, because there's so much shit now with the Aquarian age, or whatever you want to call it, doing this age of information, so much to get distracted by, at the same time, so much to get enlightened by. So you have to have a balance. And then also not give a fuck or too much attach yourself to the outcome, to the person, to the career, to whatever it is, and keep a light heart. And keep that innocence and childlike aspect. Because when you look at the manipulation and the control aspect of a lot of shit, that's what's been exposed, especially from shit being cleansed out. That's what's been exposed. The beauty in that. so that people can actually make a conscious decision to elevate and be more intentional if they're willing to do it or not, and to move forward in that. And then even with that, they're still going to evolve. We're going away from all this trying to control this shit, all this narcissistic shit, all this manipulative, deceptive. All of that is being exposed on so many fucking different levels, to where this is about reclaiming your sovereignty. I told you I can be on the phone with someone and I know where this person is because I got to know where I'm at. But in the same moment, I have to learn to, again, not to absorb shit. I have to be the observer now. I'm more the observer, to where I can't control that shit. They can be mad at me. They can do whatever and so forth. Because a lot of people don't realize, I keep hearing like, y'all don't know, like the divine said, you don't, it's just as much as a person can be an enemy, just like that. If they're enlightened, they can become a fucking ally. The Aquarian age, Pluto in Aquarius right now is definitely exposing the hidden control, or really control is a lot. My perspective on control is rooted in a lot of people's abandonment issues, you know, or a lot of the loop of what generationally a lot of people have been in, matriarchally or patriarchally. But you're seeing that being exposed to the patriarchal, but eventually it's going to be exposed to the matriarchal. This be the warning, because it has to fall back on somebody. And what I mean by that, it's going to return to the root of who has supported these men. Just like motherfuckers will point out what the fuck I've been doing. You know, I went through that. I was going through this shit. The smear campaigns and people rejecting me completely. Not even questioning, do I need to get to know them? Believing exactly what word of mouth and so forth. And not realizing that the divine was like, they don't even realize that they probably in this Aquarian age, or this Pluto in Aquarius exposing shit, the very person who probably was that was being influenced, who was not walking in integrity, they're actually, you know, at that moment could go to what's familiar because of, you know, and this is personally something I was going through, due to the person, someone who's not as emotionally intelligent. So you got to realize a lot of people collectively will move off emotional immaturity, spiritual immaturity, mental immaturity. People not emotionally grounded. So you got to realize we're coming off of these are foundations that are collapsing. That people will naturally believe a narcissist, because this is the energy we've been in. People will naturally believe the narcissist template, but as it collapses, again, the first was being made last. So the first people they will run to eventually will be the last person they will run to, because the last is being made first. So the very person at a point in time, I'm telling you, this is how this shit is a boomerang or even backfiring in people, bro. I've seen it play out where someone, I've learned through doing the inner work, my emotional intelligence, how I realize my protection from certain people, or how their influence, how they'll take their emotions in an immature state or in an undeveloped state and use it to, they don't even know, to smear someone. Use it as a smear campaign. But then you start to look at what they're building and start to recognize, like, this is exactly why the divine will allow someone to mimic you or copycat you or try to do something. And sometimes you don't even have to say shit. You don't have to say nothing. Because what ends up happening is that the very thing that they try to copy or mimic you from, I'm going to show you how shit balance out. It's still an energetic currency. But once it reaches its peak where they have to evolve or shift, most of a lot of people will go to what's familiar. They will loop. And then they will have to watch you eventually complete a cycle, because they were so distracted by Whatever it is that you were doing, instead of building their own shit personally, instead of actually doing the inner work. And I'm seeing it play out. But again, the currency, the energy that they're putting into wars will still profit you in the spiritual currency aspect. Because no matter what they do and no matter how they smear it, you're the fucking alchemist. You're the true representation of divinity. You're the reflection because of doing the inner work, Chiron and Aries. You're still going to take up space intentionally because your intentions are pure. And most of all is that you're coming from a place that is unfamiliar to them, but is very familiar to you. And see, now they gotta try to keep up with that. That's what naturally exposes people. As you expand, they're still a part of your expansion. That's what naturally exposes people, is that they can't keep up. It's funny because the shit that I'm drawing is a representation of that painting. Because at first, this was supposed to be something seen from the bottom to the top, like a sky aspect. But then I looked at the ship. It's like I'm the only one that can hold on to this motherfucker. When you moving at a speed of light or when you going fast. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh shit, it's a whole different perspective. It looked a certain way, but it came out like that. So that's the thing you got to realize in your own lane, whether you want to be in a spaceship, whether you want to be in a car, whatever it is, there's no one that can keep up truly with you. Eventually, everyone would come in, or like I said, I was talking to someone, and they can say they want something. They can say they want to be in something, but that connection showed me like, but you're still focused on shit that I'm not focused on. So either way, it's a reminder to me to still evolve. Either way, it's still a reminder to me to keep going. Either way, I'm telling myself, like, they're going to be left behind. People are always going to remind you, in your doing the inner work, in you getting to know yourself more and more, they're going to be left behind. That shit used to bother me so much when I didn't really focus on, like, when I say a lot of this Jupiter in Cancer and Chiron in Cancer in my chart, that shit exposed so much around codependency, again, abandonment wounds. But I start to realize, like, it was either something I could run from or it was something that I could face. And that's the thing I encourage people to do. Your relationships are going to be your greatest teachers, to have a more structured and balanced relationship with yourself. Your connections, your whatever it is going to be the greatest lessons of human experience, of how to simply, if you're around people who didn't know how to enjoy shit, then life will teach you that there's another side to it. You don't have to stay around them. You can actually build with other people who are living. But guess what? You can't skip it. You're going to have to face what you need to face, go through what you're going through. Again, worth. Chiron and Aries was around identity of self-abandonment. You know, there's a polarity, there's a duality to all that shit. All these different things that's just playing out differently through anybody you meet, because everyone's natal chart is different. Everyone's soul's blueprint different. Everyone's something is different. That should be your reminder right there, how unique you are. That's my reminder, like, even through my art. This is just how unique I am. I can leave this shit as is, but I'm just going to add my finishing touches. I have to be patient because the phone that I'm using to record, what I need is on the phone. So even with that, it's still a beautiful thing because I'm doing something for myself, for the collective. It's a balance to where I, again, for myself and then share it. So, yeah. Everyone has a way eventually. When you are personally doing the inner work, you don't have to explain. There's been things on my journey where I felt like I had to do this, I had to say this. No, I gradually, again, the not giving a fuck aspect is realizing, like, you have to give a fuck more about your personal experience and be able to find a balance in that. People are gonna say, they're gonna do, they're gonna attack, they're gonna da da da. And a lot of that really what has shown me, again, through what I'm seeing play out through people, I'm like, I remember saying something a year or two ago to where things will resurface or try to show themselves, and I told myself, I'm like, there's a surrenderance process where you just let the divine like play shit out. Then when it gets to you, you have the opportunity to balance that shit, and however you want to. No one can determine how, because I realized this in taking up space, I realized like there was a point in my journey somebody was trying to tell me, well, you shouldn't, it's almost like they were trying to protect the other person's feelings. And that's why I told you I had to learn through letting go of the need of justifying how I feel around something. Like how, and then also how people felt around it. And I mean in a respectful way to where I know I had to get this shit out. Because a lot of people, like, you know how someone has said something to you but think that they're going to skip off or get away with it. No, the universe has a way of bringing shit right back to where you balance that shit out. And that's why I cannot determine how people are going to feel, or that's why you hear that term like people never forget how you made them feel. Bro, that's an energy thing. But when you're dealing with an alchemist, that don't mean we forget. We just choose to alchemize it in a different way. Like I said, that paint right there, I was crying. But I know stuff gonna come full circle to where I realized like I can let this person have it, because before I told you, like, somebody was at a time I shouldn't, like, it wasn't even an attack. It was a fact of what people said to where I was like, which really affected our relationship. Now that I think about it, it's just like you were the same person, because I learned how much they were passive aggressive. This was a pattern they developed from the people that they were around. I was not that. I knew to take up space. I knew the fact of like, in certain incidents, you have to speak up instead of repressing the shit. Now, alchemy, you can do stuff through arts, you can do stuff through stuff, but stuff still come back around to where you like, you can assume that something, you was past something. But now you tell yourself, sometimes people are looking for you to retaliate, because that can be the rage baiting and shit, or the narcissist and shit, to where people feed off that. But also, once you start to recognize things on that level, not only you don't give them what they want, you also you it's like a way of like, I can't tell people how their day should go, but I know me. It's a way to where I know shit come back around, where people know that I know stuff now. Was a deeper awareness to where I don't have to absorb. I can observe and realize like I can say this, and there's gonna come a time where the person won't be able to intervene. So you gotta realize, like, that made me think about even the fact of like me finally get to talk to my mom or certain people where at a time they actually thought they got away with something. But then something comes back around and represent itself, because that's how energy does it. It'll represent itself in a different situation. You think you skipped up. No, it'll represent itself, and it's all how you handle it. It's all how you respond to it. That's going to be the internal growth and the external growth. Now, that doesn't mean some people are exempt from, like, I don't encourage violence, but I will encourage in protecting yourself. On a mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical aspect. That shit is like every aspect of that. Because a lot of shit has been so manipulated to where that like, that's why I don't like bullies. I don't like a lot of people use their size, and I don't mean a bigger bully. A lot of people think that they can bully people in ways to where people don't have to react to it. And there's bullying in the spiritual community that's being cleansed. The family dynamics, a lot of people where anytime you're trying to silence someone, anytime you're trying to use your status or whatever it is to devalue or to belittle people in such a way to where you try to make it seem like you're inferior to them, bitch, you are a fucking bully. And eventually you're going to meet your match. I've been seeing so much of this shit play out in the fucking dream state lately for me to be reminded that, listen, what you went through, and it's wild because I've been in a situation on the receiving end to where now I kept hearing like there's a movie, The Hate You Give. Whoo, that was a great movie, I believe. I think that was the title, The Hate You Give. And that's why people don't realize, boy, the motherfucking universe keeps fucking receipts. And you are the universe. Your word. You are the universe. One thing I've learned through all of these transits about self-worth, self-value, and so forth, the universe keeps receipts. I've been seeing so much shit play out that people who thought they got away with shit. This is what true spiritual growth and maturity is once you get to that awareness of realizing you don't have to do shit to people. They will get it. And you don't have... this is why the spiritual community is being cleansed now. There's a way of protecting yourself, but there's also a way of realizing that people are going to get their get back because of simply the seeds. They have collected karmic debts, just as you did, just as I did. That's why I don't encourage shit to be telling people, oh, you got to do this, you got to, because emotional maturity comes with that shit. When you emotionally immature and impulsive, reactive and shit, I've gotten to a place to realize, like, to protect my emotional stability, my safety into what I'm building, I realize a person will actually fuck their shit up. Everything that they built, simply because they haven't did the inner work. They will sit there. Because when they can't escape through you, when they can't emotionally, mentally, financially, even spiritually abuse you no more, because you got to realize it's different aspects in that shit. People can have ranking and still abuse their power spiritually. People can have emotionally rage bait and abuse you in certain ways. People can also and how do I know? Because I either seen it, experienced it, or actually been on the giving end of the shit. To where, guess what? I collected karmic debt from the shit. And now, guess what I had to do? A part of doing the inner work is clearing your karmic debts, bruh. Sis. Clearing your karmic debt so you can live in fucking peace and harmony with yourself. Then be able to align and create a world with other people. Because your world first has to be that, but with other people. Because you have to learn that not giving a fuck is just saying boundaries. Like, no, I don't have to take on anything from your world. That's your fucking world. I wasn't there through your lived experiences as a child. I was not there. The interconnectedness shows me how much we're all in this together in the evolution of things, but I was not there during your childhood. That man was not there during your childhood. That woman was not there during your childhood. And I say that simply because y'all fuckers need some accountability, bro. Everybody. I had to face it. There's certain people did not have to go through what they went through with me until I became more self-aware to realize, like, dang. So now moving forward, no one has to go through that with me. Because either I'm going to remove myself or realize through my self-worth, through my self-value, through self-care, through staying consistent and persistent with that, however long the duration is. That's protecting myself, my aura, my everything. You know what comes with that? Your ass ain't gonna if it's spiritual, you might well go ahead and stop having sex. If it's emotional, you might well go ahead and stop having sex. Sex is such a sacred part in that shit. Because you start to realize what energy you were with. For some of y'all, laying with the enemy. Because they're an enemy of themselves. And they refuse to see the inner me, you, or themselves. Sheesh. I'm giving this shit out, especially like Chiron is finna shift into Taurus like literally Friday. So this Jupiter is like literally expanding because Jupiter is in Cancer. So yeah, I don't have to hide from myself, bro. People are gonna realize it's not so much what they missed out on because people love to say that. No, the missed opportunity is they fucking self. Oh, I don't know who needed to hear that. The missed opportunity is themselves. It's not the fucking person. Yes, it's the person, but at the same time, they still have the opportunity to get to know themselves in the dynamic. What all do we want to see in certain shit? Especially if you know me personally, building towards something long term. Well, I know what I want to witness, especially if I'm coming from a journey or experiences where I see the rewards in this healing shit, or I see the rewards by being on this journey and want to structure myself. Why the fuck would I need someone who's more imbalanced or unstable, unequally yoked? Show yourself that you can do this shit. Because naturally when you show yourself, mirror, we're going to mirror each other. And then guess what? If you don't heal, why the fuck, you're not going to even, it's so unrequited. It's going to become unrequited. And now you're mad at me. Now you're on the smear campaign. That's just going to expose you and your insecurities. I don't give a fuck. I used to give a damn, but I never gave a fuck. I'm telling you, right before we go into Cancer season, till we in Gemini, I'm on one, bro, because I'm telling you, bro, like, that's how much you got to not give a fuck. Because I'm telling you, whatever people think they're doing and whatever thing they're hiding, they're just going to get more karmic debt, bro. And it's wild because as I say this, like I said, I saw somebody in the dream state. Like I said, I have emotional empathy, but I cannot save them. Fuck. I cannot save them, man. Because the divine will have your ass see you and other people what you also at a time did not heal. God! But I mean in a way of like, see the shit play out. Even though you won't be there, sometimes the divine will reveal it in a dream state or something to where, again, that's why I tell you, like, through healing, especially from abandonment wounds or codependency, bro, you don't know how much you'll be protecting yourself from their karmic debts they have to clear. You cannot clear it for them. They had the opportunity when y'all were together. That's why so many connections, people don't realize it's all spiritual. It's all can be sacred. It doesn't matter if a motherfucker twin flame, soulmate, whatever it is. It's still, again, the person, the individual has to be courageous enough to actually face their fucking fears, their shadows, their personal shit, karmic lessons, see the loop in what their mother and father. And it's so deep. That's why some of y'all can be in a hometown. For some of y'all, this is very significant. Some of y'all can actually live in a hometown where you were birthed in, whether you or the person. And y'all don't realize you're clearing karmic debts in that motherfucker. Do you know that? This is something I was personally experiencing, especially with the Cancer placements right now. A lot of y'all are at home or will be going home, but all of this is signifying coming back home to yourself because there's something, a loop there you needed to see. That's why you can be in a relationship personally with someone and they can be in their hometown, and significantly, they can be somewhere where they needed to clear something karmically with themselves and other people without, not so much without your support, but the fact of you focusing on yourself, they still have to personally go within and do something, change the whole trajectory. Oh my God, bro. I'm getting so much fucking revelation in the truth, man, about something personally, and then people I know. That's why I tell y'all, bro, this shit is not for the faint of heart. We are literally, especially Cancer, Jupiter and Cancer is hot. That's why I know, like, family members right now. I know people right now, bro. Oh, my gosh. It's like I already This where you hear the quantum leap and a leap of faith. Like I already, in a way, did this shit when I was like years ago, and it's almost like I'm 10 steps ahead but I'm able to see it now to where I still could go through a loop with someone, but I'm choosing not to because I know they have to face themselves. And that's why I realized, like, in not giving a fuck so much to where I have to fully be committed to my own personal experience and ancestral healing rather than on them, focusing on them. And I know some people who are going through this right now, and they're literally, I'm telling y'all, boy, y'all don't realize how many more people are about to transition because of this shit. And they have to. It's all a part of it. It's the energy transfer. But it's also, that's why the duality of signs with Jupiter and Cancer, bro, it's expanding everything around the home. Not just the home environment, the home within self. That means for you to expand, there's a duality to where you can expand in so many ways. Because Cancer rules the what is the chess, the abilities of, like, you know, the interconnectedness part or the intuitive part, psychic abilities. People say, you know, water, basically cleansing the waters. A lot of this energy expanding around is significant to ancestral things. Being able to connect more deeper, because you will see the duality play out in people in your family because it's ancestral, where they are still caught in the loop. And that's your reminder to evolve regardless. And that's why your abilities, whether spiritually and or playing out on a physical level, will expand in a holistic way there, which you see in an unholistic way or an unhealthy way. So that's why you see the housing market the way it is, or your focus can be being a first time in something, centering around the home. So it ain't just healing inwardly, it's also centering around, like, expanding on things through your healing so that you can position yourself or others along with the family dynamic in a better emotional safety, secure aspect. For a lot of you, you know, however Cancer shows up in your chart, but again, it still has an effect on the collective. It also, again, in the spiritual community, because it's spiritual, ancestral, it also brings expansion to that, the spiritual community, and also how people are abusing their power, whether in the family dynamic. Cancer rules the mother. So a lot of things in support of that. It's so many different things. Like when you look at what Cancer represents, or Kepri, it's so much centered around the matriarchal right now, to where, again, a duality. You have to see it from the unhealthy aspect, whether that's spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, and then also to the holistic aspect of it, the progressive aspect. Who's doing the inner work towards it? Who's distracting themselves? And then Cancer also, for me, is also the protection, because it's the matriarchal. So in women doing the inner work and protecting themselves and so forth, you know, that's the healing that has to take place. That's why I say some people are going to go through the fucking loop, dog. They're going to go through the loop, and there's not really much you can fucking do about it. Like I said, bro, it's I can feel it in my, I just know some shit people finna go through, dog. Gosh. It ain't. And this is where the empathy has been lost or discarded in a way that it's returning. Because we should care or have empathy for a lot of those mothers and people who were unaware, especially through their immaturity. If you want to call it ignorance, ignorance is ignoring their own truth, their own, who they are, and realize like this is where the part I tell people you cannot save people. They're gonna have to, and then you can only pray and trust that they'll make it out of the situation. But that's why somebody had to be willing to go on and move forward. That's why in these gaps where you have distance with people, whether relationships and so forth, the energy, it doesn't matter how they try to represent themselves. The fucking energy is still going to be prominent. If you met yourself deeper, that means you're intuitively going to know or see that the person could have got a new job, they could have went somewhere, they could have did this and did this and did this and did this and this and this. What's going to be very prominent intuitively as you start to be more in tune? They're not ready. They're still not ready because they didn't do the inner word. That's why a lot of people return, because it's the energy that's trying to double back. And that's why it can be so fucking dangerous this time around. Fool me one time, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't put the blame on you. 3 times? Man, fuck no. No. 3rd time's the charm. Yeah. Ain't gonna be no fucking 3rd time. Then when you really start to become aware, ain't even gonna be no 1st time for a lot of people. That's just it. These transits are revealing so much, like that's it. You might as well hang it up. It's a wrap. And I be in tune with a lot of stuff to where I start doing my masterpieces and shit, it really already be telling me. And then sometimes too, the divine will give you insight on people who already, they actually think that they're a step ahead, but they've already, through the loop, have already been in the energy of looping again, like way beyond what you can even imagine. Like they already been setting intentions and shit. They actually think that they're like ahead of you just because on the surface it'll look a certain way. But they know, one thing I've learned too is through the emotional healing aspect of these transits, is that that's a form of protection too for them. But also your protection lifts as you start to be more, integrate more of and planting seeds in your new timeline or your new life. And they feel that shit. Because they know that like it becomes a very prominent protection thing when they can't get in your aura or they can't reach you mentally, spiritually, and physically, and so forth. And I always encourage people to ask those in the spiritual community, those who come in more and see the corruption and stuff, that you are going to be deemed magnetic and so forth. But as you move away from stuff or gradually move away, man, them dream states and certain shit become clear and clear. It's going to become clear and clear because the divine going to reveal to you certain things that at that time when you were energetically or in that person's energy that you not so much couldn't see on the physical, but in the spiritual aspect, in the shadows. You're going to start to realize like you could be around people so much. This is why a lot of this Jupiter in Cancer right now is definitely highlighting the energy around codependency, abandonment issues, all those things that are unhealthy, but also for you to navigate through to position you in a more healthier and holistic aspect, a way of being. That's what all this shit is about. That's why on a deeper level, on a soul level, that's what it's about. It's either to keep people in the dark, and the ancestral aspect too is also the importance of recognizing all ancestors or people who passed through or over did not go into the higher, the higher realms or elevate. Them motherfucker, what they call it, ascend, they descended. When you descend to something, that shit, you go to a lawyer? That's interesting. A lower realm. And they still gotta elevate. They still got to be supportive and choose to elevate. That's what all this is about. You still got to choose to evolve regardless. It's like, how many of y'all want to be on the other side when you leave and intercede for your kids? Or for, it won't be about a title, but intercede for them. That's some beautiful fucking shit. They may sound wild, but it made me think about the Black Panther shit. How his father interceded, like when he wanted to connect more deeper and shit. That shit is fucking beautiful. If you know, you know. But a lot of things this shit has been hyping up here too, boy. I know for me. But yeah, that's all I feel like I'm gonna cover. So, peace.